Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? And as you know, in a historical reflection program, we meet every Saturday, and we have expert with whom we discuss the historical aspect and incidents. And today also, we will be discussing a very prominent. Incident which actually contributed into the independence struggle of India. And today we have Meeta Joshi, the very prominent historian from India. So let's welcome her first. Meeta ji, namaskar, and welcome you to this historical reflection. How are you doing today?
Namaskar, Kanchan. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine, and I just actually look forward towards Saturday because we discuss some interesting and thought-provoking incidents and historical incidents and reflections. And of course, you know that this is a live streaming, and people who are watching us, I would also want to welcome them so that they can also ask any questions, or if they want to add into these topics, they are most welcome. So, Mitaji, as you know that today we are discussing a very important incident, which is Gadar Movement. So, going forward, I would like to ask you, what actually is Gadar Movement?
Kanchan, as the name conveys, Gadar means revolt. So, Gadar movement was a movement which was started by the Indians who were settled abroad, who went as immigrants to Canada, to USA, and different parts of the world. And when the First World War broke out in 1914, that was an opportunity for the Gadar revolutionaries to, put new fuel to the fire of Indian national movement. And that time, Britain's difficulty became India's opportunity. And in USA and other parts of the world, the the Indian immigrants who were there, they became very active there. And in India, people like Lokmanya Tilak, V.D. Savarkar, Annie Besant, they also started their agitation against the British rule. And actually, if you ask me, it started way back in 1904, when many Indians, they went to USA as immigrants. They went there to work, to search jobs, and when they reached the foreign land, they came to know that the rules were not favoring them. And in between, when the Swadeshi movement happened in India, and after that, the discriminatory policies of USA and other countries soon resulted in a flurry of political activities by the Indians there. As early as 1907 AD, Ramnath Puri, he was a political exile on the west coast. He issued a circular-e-azadi, that means a circular of independence, or sorry, of liberty, in which he also pledged support to the Swadeshi movement. And after he did this, Tarak Nath Das in Vancouver, in Canada, he started the Free Hindustan and adopted a very militant approach. So one by one, things were happening. And then G.D. Kumar, he set up a Swadeshi Sevak home in Vancouver on the lines of the India House in London. And they also started to bring out a Gurmukhi paper known as Swadeshi Sevak, which advocated social reform. And they tried to convey their points that how much British rule is suppressive, and there is no growth of Indian people in it. And in the meantime, what happened when these things were going on, more activities started happening. And uh, the first flip of the revolutionary movement was provided by the visit to Vancouver in early 1913 of a Sikh priest known as Bhagwan Singh, who had worked in Hong Kong and the Malay states. He openly preached the gospel of violent overthrow of the British rule from India, and many people
Okay.
got inspired by that, you know. And then slowly, slowly, when all those things were happening, the Gadar militants actually on 1 November 1913, the first issue of Gadar, as I told you, the meaning of Gadar is revolt. So it was published in Urdu, and on 9 December it was published in Gurmukhi. The
Okay.
first edition came out in Gurmukhi language. The name
Okay.
of the paper was very obvious, Gadar, that means revolt, and it had a caption saying Angrezi Raj ki Dushman, enemy of the British rule. And
Okay.
also there was a feature inside titled Angrezi Raj ka Kacha Chitta, that means an expose of British rule. So what they tried to expose in this Gadar paper, they have put 14 points in which they very elaborately describe the harmful effects of British rule, including the drain of wealth, as it was also stated by the Grand Old Man of India, Dada Bhai Naroji. Then the low per capita income of Indians. This was the second point. Then the high land tax, the contrast between the low expenditure on health and high expenditure on the military, the destruction of Indian arts and industries, which was a very big point, because it was they were the Britishers. They almost destroyed our handicrafts and the Indian cottage industries. Then the recurrence of famines and plague that killed millions of Indians, the use of Indian taxpayers' money for wars in Afghanistan, Burma, Egypt, Persia, and China, the British policy of promoting discord in the Indian state to extend their own influence, and the discriminatory lenient treatment given to Englishmen who were guilty of killing Indians or dishonoring Indian women. Then the policy of helping the Christian missionaries with money raised from Hindus and Muslims, the efforts to foment the discord between Hindus and Muslims, and the entire critique of British rule that had been formulated by the Indian national movement. And this all was summarized in this paper known as Gadar. So many
Okay.
copies of Gadar were circulated, first in the United States, and then it reached to different countries. So
Okay.
there was a I must say, as you say, ripple in the lake, that slowly slowly the effect went through, and many Indians who were living in foreign lands, they decided that this is the right time and this is high time that they should do something to overthrow the British rule in a violent way, because they were the revolutionaries, and they started working on it.
Okay. So, actually, before I go further, I would like to welcome Mahakal Ki Diwani. She is here and she is listening us. So, Mahakal Ki Diwani, if you have any questions regarding Gadar movement or of independence, please go forward. We are waiting for your comment or your question. So, as you know, ma'am, that this Gadar movement center, it is at San Francisco, and I've also read that even Bhagat Singh was also part of this Gadar movement. So
Very
now,
much, very much.
yes, yes. So when we talk about this Gadar movement, I mean, even today, I mean, going to America and having a center, epicenter at San Francisco, and then coming back to India and creating these kind of ripples for independence movement, which is kind of education and interacting with the people. So how difficult it was, or how easy, if you say, that it created ripples which you have mentioned and added to the fire of independent India.
It was never easy, Kanchan, because all the leaders or political activists who were in India, they were giving their heart and soul to the Indian national movement. When this Gadar paper was circulated around, that time in India, the message was also conveyed by serializing Savarkar's The Indian War of Independence 1857. Then the Gadar also contained references to the contributions of Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Shri Aurobindo, V.D. Savarkar, Madam Kama, Shyamji Krishna Verma, Ajit Singh, and Sufi Amba Prasad, as well as the highlights of the works of Anushilan Samiti, as we discussed in the previous episode, the Yugantar
Okay.
group, and the Russian secret societies. So it was not easy, but because they were determined to overthrow the British rule, so they were going to any extent to convince the Indian people that it is high time that everyone should, be united and work together for India's independence.
Okay, so when we're going to just discuss, and for our viewers also, I would like to know that who was the leader of this Gadar movement, who initiated, and later on the big leaders of independence, freedom fighter, they have joined this movement. And you've already mentioned the impact, because it was like we would say last time we have discussed about the moderate and the people who were against the moderation, rather than they are looking into kind of immediate action on this cause of leaving British from India. Now, when we are talking about Gadar movement, how I mean, what is how it had added into these spark of independence at the same time? Uh, uh, is we Can we discuss the decline of Gadar movement in any way? And then the moderate people have taken up the things, and maybe the other people who were already from extremist, as we say, somebody just Naram Dal and Garam Dal. So Garam Dal people have taken up this Gadar movement, or how you can visualize this with this incident which happened in the past.
See, in 1914, three events influenced the course of the Gadar movement. The first was the arrest and escape of Hardayal. The second was the Komagata Maru incident, and the third incident was the outbreak of First World War in 1914 AD. So first, let me go one by one. The first incident was the arrest of Hardayal. He was arrested on 25th March 1914 on the grounds that his activities were, spreading anarchy, and the British government, they arrested him, and he was released on bail, and he used the opportunity to slip out of the country, and with that his active association with the Gadar movement came to an abrupt end. The second incident was a ship known as Komagata Maru. It is the name of a ship which started uh, his its fateful voyage to Canada in March 1914, and Canada had for some years imposed very strict restrictions on Indian immigrants by means of law, and they forbade the entry of Indian immigrants into Canada. So when this ship it started from United States of America, Komagata Maru, and it when it reached Canada, okay, when it reached Canada, it was forced out of the Canadian waters. And before it reached Yokohama, World War One broke out, and the British government passed orders that no passengers be allowed to disembark anywhere on the way. Okay, so at every port that the ship reached, the entry was not allowed. So finally, the ship reached Calcutta port, the Baj port, and those agitated immigrants who were in the ship,
So,
they
before going further, I just want to request you please mute your PC. Your voice is echoing, and then we continue with the Gadar movement.
I'm using my PC only, Kanchan.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Then continue
yeah.
a little. Fine. Anyhow, there's a leak echo, but let's see if we can subside. Anyhow, please continue, ma'am.
Yeah. So the immigrants who were on the ship on board, they were provoked by the hostile attitude of the authorities, and they resisted the police, and this led to a clash in which 18 passengers were killed and 202 were arrested, and few of them they
Okay.
managed to escape from the police. And then the third and the most important development that made the Gadar revolution a big thing was the outbreak of World War One in 1914. And what happened that time, because the Elane Jang or the declaration of war, it was done by the Gadar revolutionaries, and they said this is the right time to strike on the British government, because the British Indian Army, which was sent for the First World War, in that mostly Indian soldiers were there. British soldiers were very less, number one. Number two, all the food supplies, they were diverted towards Britain for the First World War, and the Indians back home, they faced lot of crisis of food, because as I told you that lot of famines and diseases, they broke out in India after the Britishers came to our country. Maybe, I don't know, it was a curse, or nature was angry. I don't know what was the reason, but it happened because many famines and diseases, they broke out in India, and many Indians, they lost their lives because of that. So at that time, when the food supplies and the medicine supplies was needed for the Indian people, they all were diverted to Britain for the soldiers and people who were fighting for Britain in the First World War. So these three incidents, they really affected the course of the Gadar movement. And as you said that the decline happened immediately when the First World War started, because by the arrest of Lala Hardayal, he was the main figure in the Gadar movement. So when he was arrested, there was no good leadership who could guide, the revolutionaries. So slowly the Gadar movement declined, but that time Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Annie Besant, they both started home rule movements. So
Okay.
yeah, it was not this thing that if the Gadar movement came down, so the Indian struggle of independence was slowed down. No, it was taken forward by Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Annie Besant by setting up home rule leagues. And
Okay.
slowly the Gadar movement, it faded away because
Okay.
there was no good leadership that time.
Okay. So when we talk about Gadar movement, I am sure listening to your comments also, it was really very important aspect which added into the independence of India. But just last question is that how you rate this Gadar movement? It is I think because that is a revolt which you had been which you just mentioned, and this is a contribution for people who are away from India, people who are living away, because the it started as if the center was San Francisco and other countries like Canada and other Singapore and all these countries. So it is more of a kind of a naram garam dal association, or how you will it is kind of extreme what we say ideology, or it's kind of a middle way or moderate. How you rate this Gadar movement?
Kanchan, if you see, the Gadar ideology was very democratic and egalitarian in its content.
Okay.
And Lala Hardayal, he was able to create a truly international outlook for the Gadar revolutionaries. So we cannot say that it was a Naramdal thing because they were revolutionaries. They were apart from all these activities which they were doing, they were also collecting funds to sponsor the arms and ammunitions to the revolutionaries or the extremists in India. So their contribution cannot be neglected. They, at that point of time, they did their best. But only drawback was that because of lack of leadership after the arrest of
Right.
Hardayal, there was no proper leadership for the Gadar revolutionaries. Though everyone was working at their own end, there was, many revolutionaries who were working in association with Lala Hardayal that time. So those could not create an effective impact on the revolutionaries. And
Right.
slowly, that momentum, that dynamic approach faded away. So that was
Okay.
the reason that it slowly, vanished. But it is definitely a very major part of our Indian national movement. Just imagine
Right.
people
Right.
who were away from our country, from their motherland, but still they are thinking of their own motherland, that how to
Right.
get it free from the suppressive British rule.
Okay, so we have a couple of viewers who have put forward their comments. We have Giriraj Joshi, Mr. Giriraj Joshi. He says that the very important movement, and which is not known to many, and great to know that. And so, and he has also passed explanation, a very important movement for our history, not known to many. Good explanation. So, thank you, Giriraj Joshi ji, and we will pass on this comment to our expert, Mrs. Meeta Joshi. We have Vijay Lakshmi Bhari Mala. She's also saying Gadar Party Lala Hardyal, 1913, San Francisco, USA. Yes, thank you for adding this information. And that is what we are discussing with me, Mrs. Meeta Joshi. And so, any last thought you want to convey to our viewers today before we close this important and very interesting discussion?
Yes, Kanchan, I want to remind the viewers that today being 23rd March, it is a very important day for us Indians because this was the day when Bhagat Singh was hanged along with Rajguru and Ram Prasad Bismil. So let's remember those freedom fighters. And this hanging happened on 23rd March 1931 in Lahore prison. And very courageously, very valiantly, three of them, they went for the hanging. And as the history tells us, the jailer who was supposed to do the execution, his hands were trembling because when he saw the fearlessness in their faces, I'm getting emotional. That how fearless they were. They were not afraid that they were dying because they knew that they were becoming martyrs forever. And definitely they are martyrs because of them only, because of their sacrifices, we are breathing, in a free air in India. We are living freely in our country. So it is a very important day. So let's remember, let's analyze that what we are doing as common people to uplift our own country, how much we are contributing for the progress and growth of our country. And let's not forget their valuable sacrifices, which so many, not only Bhagat Singh or Bismil or Azad or Rajguru. There are many revolutionaries like this. The list is endless. I cannot, it will take, I think, one more episode only to read out the names of those revolutionaries who gave up their lives for a very noble cause. So let's remember them and let's value their sacrifice. And how can we value that sacrifice? By contributing from our own, side for the growth and development of our country, and showing some honesty and patriotism towards it.
Right. Yes. So going forward, it was really a very good discussion, and even our viewers are also appreciating. And we have Sai Priya Gundu, very detailed explanation, great lecture. Thank you. आपके लिए thank you बोल रहे हैं. So I'm passing it to you. And also we have Vijay Lakshmi, and she's today's Shaheed Divas, and definitely we have mentioned the Veer Shaheed Bhagat Singh. So we have done that. Again, then Vijay Lakshmi is also, they are related with Kothari train conspiracy and in 1925. So again, I'm amazed because generally, Mrs. Joshi, we generally see people who are not interested in the history. But today we can see the viewers, they know very much, and they are relating how we have got the independence. And to everybody, I would like to convey that independence is a big effort. It was not easy, and there are many souls, there are many sacrifices is being done. So we should value, and definitely, as you mentioned, Mrs. Meeta Joshi, that we should be very much, we should give value to our tradition. We should value our great nation, as well as people, the great people who has built up this big nation, which is we call Bharat. So this is is, and we should be very lucky, and we should feel actually lucky that we are coming from one of the oldest civilization. We have so much to give to our next generation as well as to rest of the world. So today discussion was really very good, and I also got many good information, which few are missing, like few names, and how these NRIs, even at that point of time, they have associated with independence movement. So thank you so much. We'll be meeting again next Saturday, ma'am, and we'll definitely will discussing more thought-provoking incidents and ideas which are related to the history, which are related to those past lovely and profound moments. So thanks again. See you soon. Take care, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. So today we have discussed a very important movement, which is Gadar Movement, and definitely many viewers have put forward their comments and their ideas, and we should also understand, though the Gadar Movement initiated and it contributed to the independence movement of India, and all the leaders, we should say naman, we should respect them, because big or small, whatever effort is being done to get the independence, and whatever has made us to live in independent India, that is a big and very profound contribution. So see you all again next Saturday with our expert, and we'll be discussing much more interesting topic going forward. Take care. Bye-bye.